Los Angeles Chargers at the New Orleans Saints.
Anytime you would like to create the document, knock yourself out.
I appreciate the work you put in here. Chargers Saints might be moved because of the weather.
The Dombrowski game did, in fact, cause 29 pressures on Phillip Rivers.
29 So Phillip Rivers, who's been pressured 27 times this year, has had games where he was pressured 29 times in his career.
Yes.
I'm sure every quarterback has at least one of those.
Actually, that's not even the Dombrowski game. I missed the year. That's just another random game where he was pressured 29 times.
All right, don't look at it any further. Let's discuss the Saints and the Chargers. Justin Herbert, Drew Brees. If they do move it, it would be in Indianapolis. So they get to, as I tweeted out, get to protect Brees in a dome. Keep him in a dome on prime time. But Brees looked much better last week. Herbert, I still, last year when Daniel Jones was breaking out and impressing everyone, I took the very calm approach to not apologize. There was no Daniel Jones apology form last year, even though
I'm sure the Giants' official Twitter account was asking for one, though, like throw one of preseason.
Well, listen, Dan Orlovsky did apologize during the preseason for Daniel Jones, for his assessment of Daniel Jones. And Jones is playing fine this year. But last year, I'm watching him, and Jones had some high-end games. He had some bad stuff. He's fumbling left and right, but he's making some great throws. I'm like, all right, read my scouting report. This is it, right? Like, he does NFL stuff. He does bad stuff. He's Nick Foles-ish. I would say Herbert, to this point, go read my scouting report. Go read my draft preview on Herbert. I said he's got field-flipping arm strength, Sam. And in the right system where he's attacking down the field, he can have some success. But he still misses too many throws.
Have you not been more impressed, though, with Justin Herbert so far than with Daniel Jones?
Yeah, I would say I've been. But I also came with a higher standard there, too. I said I would take Herbert back into I've put Herbert back into the first round in my head as a guy that I would, want to bring in and develop, but not necessarily tie my franchise to. I said the same thing about Josh Allen. Late first, more of an early than an early first. So I had higher expectations for Herbert than I had for Daniel Jones.
All right, fair enough. I mean, the point I think is that, look, Herbert has done a lot of good stuff, but every game so far there's been at least one horrendous decision, and they've actually cost them the games. Like, two of those games, they basically lost off the strength of the hideous decision that he made to throw the interception, But that's like the only thing that's holding him back from being like really good right now, which is impressive. Like, I know it's always difficult to place these sort of volatile, capable of good and bad, often at the same time, quarterbacks. But I think overall he's been more impressive and more consistently impressive than I was expecting him to be. But it's just like every game there's been one of those. If we could just get just that one play out of his game each performance, he's like immediately like a top 10 quarterback.
Whoa. Top 10?
I mean, seriously, if you take out
if you take away a couple
the
of
one
bad
hideous
decisions.
interception every week.
So what I was most impressed about last week, we talk a lot about supporting cast here and all that stuff. He was throwing to not great names and throwing field flipping
stop using
bombs. But I mentioned on the Monday pod, the zero blitz. Right, you don't have a safety.
Yeah.
You recognize it. You hang in there. You're probably going to get hit, or you get guys in your face, and he puts it right on his receiver. Creating those chunk plays has been great. We've also talked about it's kind of like Joe Burrow a little bit. It's a situation where the O-line's not great. You're probably going to get hit more than you'd like, but the guys you're throwing to are pretty good, and they're even better. In Los Angeles with Hunter Henry, with Keenan Allen, and when they're completely healthy, those guys are better. But again, he's thrown to some backup receivers and did a really nice job. So yeah, I've been impressed with Herbert. I want to see him handle some of the easy stuff right now. He still misses a couple extra throws than he should, and to your point, the disastrous decisions in there.
Back-to-back games of young rookie quarterback facing geriatric opposition. There was like 21 years or something between him and Tom Brady last week. I think it's whatever that is, -1 or 2 this year.
They were showing both of them through the years.
Yeah.
And it was like Brady holding up a Super Bowl trophy and Herbert like the 3-year-old in a pumpkin patch.
Like the gap between the two of them is old enough to drink.
Yeah, it really is. It's great.
And like Breeze isn't quite that, but he's getting there. The interest, and it's another chance for Breeze to show that, look, that wasn't a fluke against Detroit. I can actually still be a viable quarterback, which we need. Otherwise, I think this team isn't going to the Super Bowl. And again, it's a step up, right? It's a very different defense, but it's a much better defense as well. So can Breeze actually show that was a bounce back and that he's on track again, or does he go back to being old man Breeze from the first couple of games that was bad?
Yeah, and watching Breeze last week, I think you just see he's got it's just a smaller margin for error, right? He needs, and he's already got great anticipation. I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback's mind move through a play as quickly as Breeze. His eyes are just incredible. Now he might have to do that just a tick quicker to offset the arm and the velocity.
Do you think that becomes a bigger problem against a zone-heavy defense than it is a man-heavy one?
Maybe because, I'd say so. Because just all the windows are just a little bit tighter. Breeze has never had a cannon for an arm, but he could throw the ball up the seam. Why could he do that? Because his timing was impeccable. His accuracy has been great, but also he can manipulate and move with his eyes and all that stuff. If that is off just a little bit, then the whole thing's... that was Peyton trying to throw the seam that you always reference back in 2012, right? He's like, I'm throwing a seam, and it gets picked off 3 times. It's like, whoa, I can't do that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if it's the timing. It's that, like, if your arm deteriorates to the point where it just takes longer to get there, the guy watching you throw, like the defensive back with his eyes on the quarterback, he's always seeing you where you're going to go with the ball, and he has a chance to jump that play. If the ball simply takes longer to get to where it's supposed to go, you have longer to make that play. So in the past, it didn't matter that you saw it coming. You weren't going to get there in time because the ball was hitting the guy it was supposed to hit before you could make the play. Now it's taken just a little bit longer. The fact that you're half a step, or you were half a step behind, the difference between the two might be that half a step, and suddenly you can make a play. Against man coverage, in theory, it doesn't really matter because the guy's not looking at you anyway, right? So you just have to be able to adjust your timing so that you hit the guy in the right spot and you're good. But zone, you're dealing with the idea of they get to see what you're doing with the ball. And if the fundamental problem is the velocity with which you're throwing it is now smaller, lower, so that it takes longer, it's just simple physics. They have more time to operate and more time to make a play.
So yeah, I completely agree, and that's why I said it's just a smaller margin of error, and you have to be a little bit earlier. So you have to, and Breeze has a lot of these passes, like he'll throw a deep out or a deep comeback, and he'll just throw it to space. Every quarterback has that to a point, but Breeze throws it really early, throws it to space, trusts that Emmanuel Sanders is going to get there, whoever's going to get there, and the velocity doesn't matter on that. You just lob it up, and you just know it's going to get to the area, right? You can't do that up the seam as much. So I think that is where you're losing some of the passes that have made the Saints so difficult to defend through the years. I once again do want to see teams come up and make him... I think you just want to make him like he had 4 big-time throws the other day, including tight red zone. You want to force Breeze to make 4 or 5 big-time throws per week. Even if he hits them, tip your cap, like, good job. But you want to take away the yak-centric offense that they had over the first 3 weeks and just make the throws a little bit, tighter window. So Chargers cover 3 scheme. They love it. But I think Breeze and Brady types, when they know what they're getting, they know how to exploit that. So it's generally a good matchup for those veteran quarterbacks, I think. Yeah,
it's completely different to the Detroit scheme, but it's the same idea that you know what you're going to get against them. It's just a different set of things you have to defeat. But I'm interested to see if this one actually attacks Breeze better than Detroit's man heavy thing did.
What do you like, or who do you like in this one? New Orleans by 8, by the way.
Yeah, I do like the Saints. 8 is a little rich, but I mean, when you have Herbert at quarterback, it's easy to see why, because one of those bad interceptions could swing 8 points. You know what I mean?
See, I would work it the other way. I'm going to take the Chargers to cover here. I think they're going to hang in, and Herbert's big time throws lead to 50-yard touchdowns. Is the thing, right? True. And he's got, I'm not going to say it. He has an arm that could that could couple throws and you got 14 points on the board, and keep the Chargers in it. Flip the field.
Yeah.
Right?
It's just something wrong with that.
Give me the Chargers to cover here.
All right.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel, and if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.